Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shiva Rezvan, a public education team member at the Connecticut Psychological Association. Welcome to the interview series, Sharing Our Stories. As you know, our goal is to create a deeper connection between psychologists and our community. And today, I'm so excited to say that we have Dr. Steinberg with us. He has served as a CPA member and a leader for more than 20 years, and also has sponsored the Connecticut Psychological Association Social Justice Speaker Series at the highest level, which is the platinum level, for 3 consecutive years. And we deeply appreciate all your contributions, Dr. Steinberg.
So Dr. Rezvan, thank you so much for this opportunity. It looks like I interrupted you, so I'm going to pause for a moment.
You're good. You're good.
All right. So I just want to thank you so much for your creation of the Social Justice Speaker Series with your colleagues. It's such a contribution to our community, and your generosity in opening it up to the community beyond psychology means that there are opportunities for people to hear, to be heard, to be empowered. And it's a real privilege to support what you guys are up to. So thank you.
Thank you for the acknowledgement, Dr. Steinberg. And also, Dr. Steinberg is the director of the Comprehensive Neuropsychological Services. A warm welcome again.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm going to start with the first question. Would you please tell us briefly about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about ways of answering the question, and there's the usual details. So I guess that would be that I'm an only child. I was born to older parents in a town north of Boston, and was raised in a loving immediate family, loving extended family, and had a variety of experiences as I reflected on it that from an early age helped me to really see, not necessarily thinking in these terms, about the prevalence of distinctions and contrasts in life among people, among experiences. One example of that is my family had pretty modest means growing up, but both of my parents really valued education. And so they had a commitment that I have some opportunities. So I ended up going to a couple of pretty remarkable boarding schools, prep schools along the way. And it gave me an opportunity to see a variety of experiences, points of view, and to experience what it's like to have materially, to not have materially, how we deal with that. And frankly, that was an important sort of organizing focus throughout my life. So a lot of the experiences that I sought to create for myself were really about, where do I want to end up in life? What are the ways of getting there? What are challenges that I experience along the way? And it was profoundly instructive. Along the way, many, many generous people shared their support, their expertise, their help. And I guess what I would say is it gave me a real appreciation of the richness of life, some of the challenges that we can face. And, my parents supported my interest in doing a variety of activities. They were always in my corner, always experienced that. And so really getting, I would say the takeaway was, life is an opportunity, and we can create for ourselves lots of things, no guarantees, but there's help along the way, there's choices along the way. And it's just an incredible growth opportunity and a miraculous journey. So that's kind of where I come from.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And would you please tell us, how did you get into this field?
Yeah, so absolutely. So Lennon and McCartney's Long and Winding Road song comes to mind with the Beatles.
Mhm.
So because of the circumstances I grew up in when I was really young, I spent a lot of time on my own. And one of the ways that I stayed occupied is there were things around the house that I had an opportunity to take apart and figure out how they worked. So I've always been just really relentlessly curious. Never been afraid to break things along the way and to put them back together and take responsibility for it. And from an early age, understanding how things work from, at a small level to bigger and bigger levels has always I've loved learning, and it's been really fascinating. So it started off with things like tinkering around with simple electric lights. It grew to, I remember being draped over the front fender of my father's car, helping him, keep the family thing going. And as I grew older, it sort of looked like engineering was going to be the direction that I would go in one way or another. I got really interested in music, first playing the trumpet in elementary school and then guitar, because I thought that was the popular thing to do. And my study skills in school were remarkable for their absence. So basically, instead of doing work, I ended up doing music. And when it came time to decide what I'm going to do for a career, playing the guitar and being the next Eddie Van Halen sort of inched up the priority list, and being an engineer fell down. So I actually started out of high school going to Berklee College of Music. I was there for three semesters basically, and had the opportunity to see like world-class players. Speaking of contrasts, I kind of saw they got something that I'm not sure I have, and I'm not really willing to stake my future on it. So it was a serious identity crisis. Everything that looked like it was pointing in that direction of professional music as a career suddenly became, no, that's not it. So my fallback plan was engineering. So after a couple of twists and turns in the road, I went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst and was going to be a mechanical engineer. Failed my calculus class, failed my programming class. And I thought, maybe there's more to it than just taking stuff apart. And I don't know as that's necessarily it either. During my upbringing, my best friend's father was a child psychologist. And I remember lots of hours spent at his house hanging out, and I'd hear things that his father shared about the kind of work that he did. And it was at a time where my own growth and development, it's like being a teenager. And part of what I wanted to sort out is like, what's going on here? There were challenges, and I wanted to kind of get it handled. So I thought, well, I like figuring things out. There's this thing called psychology that looks like people can figure themselves out. I like the idea of helping other people, and I like the idea of helping myself. So when I was at UMass, after I decided not engineering, took a couple of psychology classes, and I was totally a goner. So it was so fascinating. You look at human beings from the highest level of groups and communities, social psychology, abnormal psychology, biopsychology. It was just fascinating. And so I kind of got an initial direction after I decided not engineering. Nothing deflected me off the path. And so once I got far enough that I was seeing the end of my undergraduate, I realized, well, all right, if I'm going to make a living, I got to probably go beyond having an undergrad. So I decided to apply to graduate school. I was originally going to be a marriage and family therapist when I started graduate school. And then my neuropsychology class, or actually it was a biopsychology class. For me, it was the best of both worlds. It's understanding human beings, but understanding the hardware as well as the software. And so from that point on, once I decided, the thing that I want to do, it's called neuropsychology. Great, I'll do that. We didn't have a really robust neuropsychology program. We had a lot of really good classes, but it really was a matter of generating training experiences. And it's kind of like you see in the cartoon where somebody starts a really small snowball at the top of the hill and you get it rolling, and by the bottom, it's the size of a truck. That was neuropsychology for me. And just as it went on, it felt so natural, so at home. And it's just been amazing. It's a wonderful, wonderful journey. And again, so many generous people along the way sharing their knowledge and their expertise.
Very interesting and exciting story, Dr. Steinberg.
Thank you.
My other questions is that I know you do neuropsychological examinations and provide treatment to people with brain-related conditions,
Mhm.
but you also do traditional psychotherapy. Do you see those as separate worlds, or are they somehow related?
Thank you. I love the question. Um, so I've spent a lot of time with computers over the years, and for me, it turns out the computer is actually a really profound metaphor for how we function as human beings, as whole people. So we got a hardware side and we got a software side. At the end of the day, most people don't care about hardware or software. What they want is the computer to do what they need the computer to do. And what I've found both professionally and personally is that knowing about the hardware and how it interacts with the software, meaning how our brains are put together, how they normally work, and then how psychological functioning is a product of that, having that understanding ultimately is hugely empowering. I'll often when people ask, essentially, why am I depressed or why am I anxious? My response is, well, why does your car not fly? Well, your car doesn't fly because it's not built to fly. But the reason why it rolls along the ground is that's how it's built. And one of the sort of non-obvious reasons why we may want to consider that we're able to experience depression or anxiety or love or joy is our brains are actually built to allow us to experience them. And it's one of those things like when I pull out my iPad and I'm doing something on it, or I stick the key in the car to go somewhere, I don't think about what's going on under the hood. And yet what's under the hood limits and shapes what I'm able to do. So I don't have to dive deep in the weeds about how brains are built and how they function, but at least knowing where the rubber meets the road, how my functioning is affected, can actually leave me being a powerfully effective human being. So for me, I actually don't make a distinction, because the whole enterprise of psychology is about understanding ourselves and others and being able to use that information to build the lives that we want to have. So I love understanding data sets for patients, whether it's our conversation or test scores, but ultimately communicating at a level that really lands. This is where what you've been dealing with has come from, and this is how you might be able to handle that to really get to where you want to be in life. So the whole thing is just this joyous, miraculous enterprise, and so it's all really the same conversation.
Exactly. I love your approach. Fascinating. And my last question for today, I understand that you're a big fan of acceptance commitment therapy. What's the appeal for you?
Yeah. So I guess I see myself as having come fairly late to the game of acceptance and commitment therapy. My training in terms of formal psychological training was traditional cognitive behavior therapy, grounded in behavior therapy, but then learning a number of the prominent alternative approaches, interpersonal process, and so forth. When I was in graduate school, I was really interested in diagnosis, but it was really from the standpoint of understanding what's wrong or broken and how do you fix it, which at the time, in addition to being interested in that knowledge and skill from the standpoint of my patients, I also had a huge self-interest, because the sort of experiences and challenges that in my own life I had, I was still kind of looking for something that was going to click and have it come together for me where I had some resolution, right? Because it was a sort of gnawing sense, something's not working here, something's not right here. Here's what I got out of acceptance and commitment therapy is, instead of having a conversation about life challenges inside of something's wrong or something's broken, what I got is being a human being is challenging. And one of the incredible privileges, I mean, it's just off the hook, of the kind of work that we do in the field of psychology is very often people share with us their deepest, darkest, most challenging situations and experiences, and getting a database to appreciate what the human condition is really like. Acceptance and commitment therapy dignifies the human condition, not as a problem, but as this is what it means to be a human being. It depathologizes our humanity. And for me, one of the things I got is, as one of those human beings, it gives me the opportunity to be authentic in my treatment, always in the service of what benefits patients. But there isn't a certain kind of way that I'm supposed to be. It really is about two human beings meeting, joining along the way of the pilgrimage. And how can that be of benefit given what one of the people is dealing with? So the acceptance part of ACT, about accepting our internal experience, our highs, our lows, our resistance, our disappointments, all of it as simply, this is part of the game, the waves coming in and going out. And then commitment is, what do I want and why? And moment by moment, day by day, how am I living out that commitment in ways that I see are having me use my time on this earth in ways that I deem worthwhile? So it's such an uplifting, empowering approach that isn't about managing symptoms or making emotional experiences go away or finding the levers and dials on my emotions first and foremost. That may be a benefit that comes, but it's really about, listen, here's life. So what about that? What am I going to do? It turns out that ACT is entirely consistent with what I know as a neuropsychologist. So a way of dealing with the software side of life that's integrated with the hardware side. I'm not trying to get the car to fly, but I'm actually having the car run effectively on the road, is really wonderful. There's a kind of wholeness and cohesiveness that, for me as a human being and as a therapist, just really lights me up. And I've witnessed the difference that people can get from that, and it's so exciting. The last thing that I'll mention about that is that if you think about how a seesaw is built, you've got the board, but then you have the hinge point in the middle, and the whole thing pivots along that. So when I was about 33 or 34 years old, I completed a personal growth and development experience called the Landmark Forum. And that for me became literally that fulcrum in my life. I now reckon my experience as what occurred prior and what occurred after. And I have such a vivid sort of whole body experience of, after the first day of that training, walking out of there with a lightness I don't recall having experienced, because I went in there inauthentic about my desire to find a way of fixing myself yet another way. And what I got when I left there is, there's actually nothing broken. And that space of, there is nothing broken and nothing wrong. There's nothing missing from me as a human being. There may be things that I'm dealing with, and my level of growth may not match what there is to do in the way to produce the results that I want and that I'm committed to. But again, coming from this nothing broken, it's called being a human being, gave me a kind of freedom that I actually had been unsuccessful in getting at anywhere else in my life. And when something like that comes into my life, my initial reaction is to look around and say, check this out, this is so cool, dig this. So there's such consistency between that personal experience that I had and acceptance and commitment therapy that, again, it's sort of this cohesiveness. It's kind of the same core in slightly different packaging, a different context. But the more that I've lived with the seriously committed input of lots of people, the more that I've realized that there's actually a kind of elegant simplicity about life. The more that I grow, the more that I learn, the more that I get that things can be simple, and in that simplicity is a power. And really being open to life and connected to it and being up to what I'm being up to, that's like a pretty winning recipe. And so for me, ACT is a tangible, actionable way of bringing into the lives of patients for whom it'll work for them some of those things that have the power to be really transformative. And ultimately, you know, when my elevator pitch, when people ask me what I do is I join with people to support them in creating the lives that they want to live. And I can't imagine a more fulfilling and privileged gig.
That was empowering that you shared this with us, Dr. Steinberg. Accepting our existence as human beings, we are worthwhile, nothing broken, nothing wrong, and appreciating simplicity. It just full joy listening to you. And thank you for sharing you with us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege and a delight. And thank you for also for this opportunity for us as a community to learn about others in community and to have like the invitation to really share with each other and to connect, because that's where the juice in life is.
Exactly. I know you for years. I didn't know many things about you. Thank you for being with us and hope you have a wonderful day. And I would like to say thank you to all of you who watched this interview, and we look forward to creating this kind of sharing and communication together. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye, Dr. Steinberg.
Goodbye. Thank you so much, Shiva.